What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer, and I like to talk about movies. Today we're going to talk about the latest entry into the DCEU and the final entry into the DCEU, because with the release of The Flash, the DC Extended Universe has come to an end. And what I mean by that is that James Gunn, the previous director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and the DCEU The Suicide Squad movie, has been named co-head of DC Studios and is rebooting the entire DC universe and just calling it the DCU. So they said Man of Steel is the kickoff of the DCEU, and The Flash is the end of the DCEU as we know it. Some characters will carry over, but for the most part, it's going to be a complete reboot, and honestly, I'm excited to see what direction he takes it in. But we'll talk about that in another video another day. For now, we're going to talk about The Flash. Let's do the review.
What's the play? Batman, what do we do?
We try not to die.
My name is Kara.
I'm Barry. We're Barry.
And so, guys, The Flash is directed by Andy Muschietti, who directed the previous It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. Now, It Chapter 1 is one of my favorite horror movies in the last 10 years, and It Chapter 2 is one of my least favorite horror movies in the last 10 years, so there's a good balance there. But going into this movie, there was a lot of hype and a lot of drama surrounding this movie. So I was very hyped about some things like, hey, I'm excited to see Ezra Miller's version of The Flash again because I've enjoyed Ezra Miller's version of The Flash. And I was very hyped to see Michael Keaton back as Batman. Like, that was blowing my mind that we were even going to get that in the first place. And then you find out that he's in at least half of the movie. I was like, just sign me up. I have to see this on week one. But going into the new year, when I created my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year list, because of all that drama surrounding this movie, I just didn't put it on that list. I wasn't excited about it. And then, of course, they dropped that trailer where Michael Keaton says,
Yeah. I'm Batman.
That pretty much hooked me. I had to see this movie on week one. So let's get into The Flash. Let's talk about the synopsis. So I'm going to try to be as careful and spoiler-free as possible throughout the synopsis of this movie, and I may do a spoiler review down the line, but here's what's going on. You've got Barry Allen deciding he wants to make some changes of things that happened in the past. Some things that happened that separated his family. His mother died. His father went to jail for the murder. However, he knows that his father couldn't have committed that murder because he was at the grocery store. Unfortunately, though, there wasn't good enough camera feed at the grocery store to show his father there, so his father ended up going to jail for the murder. So he decides he's going to go back in time, use the Speed Force to turn time around. He's going to go back and he's going to make one slight change that will just change the fact that his mother will live and everything should be fine. Things go chaotic, things go wrong, because when you mess with the past, it messes with the future. And so he gets put in a world where all of the metahumans, like Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, all of them are gone. There is no saviors of the world. All they've got is this Flash and Michael Keaton's Batman. Which, honestly, do you need any more than Michael Keaton's Batman? That is the question. But of course, where he stops in time, where his mother has lived, his father has lived, and there's only Michael Keaton's Batman, it is also the invasion of Zod and the Kryptonian army that happened back in Man of Steel. And that was such an exciting concept to me, because it was like getting to see the same elements from a different movie, but seeing them in a different light this time. I was so intrigued about that. With that said, that is the synopsis I can give you. I don't want to spoil anything more for this movie. Let's jump into my likes and my dislikes. First like I have about this movie, it's a Flash movie, it's a DC movie. We're going to talk about the action. The action is incredible. If you're talking about the Flash, the way they use the Speed Force, I loved that. If you're talking about the way he fights people, because the Flash isn't like a superhuman that can bounce bullets off, but he does have super speed and he uses that to his advantage, and I love the way that they portray the Speed Force in this movie. But of course, I can't leave out Michael Keaton's Batman. Any of the action scenes with him, yes, there's a lot of CGI that's used, but god damn do they look good, and I absolutely love everything they do with Michael Keaton's Batman in this movie. So I'm going to throw Michael Keaton's Batman as actually my next like, because I want to talk about him more. So yes, the action is great, but getting into my likes for Michael Keaton's Batman, he just has all that tech from the '89 Batman, and it's so cool to see. You see the car, you see the jet, you see all the different gadgets that he uses. There's a really good gag in this movie where he uses a tape measure. I won't get into it, but it's really good. And there's several callbacks to the previous Batman '89 movie that they do in this movie that are so good, so well set up, and they don't feel like they're being forced down your throat. They just feel like they're happening naturally, and if you've seen the previous movie, you'll get the joke even more. And then, of course leads me to the likes I have for the comedy in this movie, because they did a great job balancing the emotional beats and the comedy. Both likes for me. I liked where they went with the emotional parts of this movie, and I liked where they went with the comedy in this movie. The comedy, again, it just worked on multiple levels, because there were jokes that were made that were really funny. Like at one point, the Flash needs to be carried by Batman, and it's a funny moment. But if you know that in the '89 movie, the same thing happened with Vicky Vale and Batman, it just makes it funnier. I just enjoy it even more. Same thing goes with another joke with Batman. Batman goes to do something and he asks for their weight, and it's the same thing he did in the '89 movie. So if you've seen that movie, if you have an appreciation for that movie, you get the joke even more this time around. The moments in this movie with Barry Allen and his mom are so heartfelt. They work so well, and there's several moments where they do almost the same scene, and each time it gets sadder, because you're realizing the Flash is coming to the conclusion that you can't always change everything. And so there's like a hero's journey in this movie, but it's done so well, you feel it the entire time. And by the end of the movie, you're at peace with it too. So it didn't leave the viewer going, I didn't like that. Like, you're at peace with the fact that everything had to happen the way that it was. And all of those things work. The comedy, the action, the emotional beats, like, they found a way to make every single one of those work, at least for me, and this is my movie review, so I'm putting all those in the like column. Before we go on to my dislikes, I'm going to throw a quick like out there for Supergirl, played by Sasha in this movie. She is fantastic. She does a great job. I don't want to get into too much of her story because they didn't give much in the previews, and I want to keep this spoiler free, so I think she did a great job. And while I would have personally preferred to see the Man of Steel one more time, like, could you imagine if it had been Henry Cavill? That would have been so cool. While I personally would have preferred that, I think she did a good job, and the movie did a good job integrating her into the storyline for this movie, not making it feel forced, which, again, I just appreciated. And since we're on that note, I know I said my last like, but I'm going to say there's some cameos in this movie. I'm not going to mention in this review. There are some cameos in this movie that do it for me. They are so good and they're done so well. And of course, there's going to be people online talking about, well, this wasn't done very tasteful and this wasn't done. Just ignore all that. Just silence that talk, because they are done very well, very appropriately, and there's no, oh, well, they forced this in there. I didn't feel that even once. In a movie that is 2.5 hours, I didn't feel like I was being force-fed anything. No propaganda, no agenda, no forced cameos. Like, this movie didn't force anything on you. It just lets you enjoy the DCEU, and it really did make you enjoy everything about the DCEU, which is pretty crazy that they were able to do that. They were even able to pay respect to past things that happened in DC in a very tactful way. And again, I appreciate that. Getting into my dislikes, I really only have one, and I completely understand the gripe that people are talking about when it comes to the CGI in this movie. Now, the director did come out and say, hey, listen, guys, we've heard about the CGI, you guys not liking it, but I purposely did that too when Flash is using the Speed Force or when Flash is going super fast. I purposely made the CGI look weird because you're seeing it from Flash's point of view. So that I completely understand, and I'm going to give that a pass. You know what? That's a good explanation. I'm fine with it personally. However, there are moments in this movie where the CGI looks bad, and they're not using the Flash viewpoint. It's not Speed Force. It's just different moments, like Ben Affleck on a bike when he definitely wasn't there. It just looked bad. There are moments, and this movie was made for over $200 million, and they had 3+ years to make this thing, and they still found a way to not finish the CGI perfectly, and I don't think there's an excuse for that. I don't think you can say that. I get it. I'll give you a pass on the Flash stuff where you're seeing it through the Flash's eyes. That's fine. But there's just some moments in this movie where you're like, that CGI looks messy. And that's been a problem with the DCEU for a long time. So I'll give them a pass for the stuff that happened with the Flash's point of view, but not the rest of it. So the CGI in this movie is my only real dislike, my only gripe. I wish they would have cleaned it up a little more. For a movie that was prolonged for so long, they should have cleaned it up. It should have looked better. Overall, I'll say that this was a very enjoyable time. If you're a DC fan, if you're a Flash fan, I think you'll really enjoy this movie. If you're a Michael Keaton Batman fan, I think this movie will do whatever you need it to do for you, because he's done and treated so well in this movie. Ultimately, this is a movie I cannot wait to buy on 4K. I'm going to set it up down in my movie room, and I'm going to watch this movie over and over. I really loved it. This is my favorite movie of 2023 so far. And we do have some big blockbusters coming out soon. Looking at you, Mission Impossible. Looking at you, Oppenheimer. We got some big movies coming out. But till then, this is my favorite movie of 2023 so far. And that's my review for The Flash, guys. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps the video, it helps the channel. And if you've got thoughts or comments, maybe you've seen The Flash and you've got some spoilery comments, throw those in the comment section down below. Let's talk about The Flash. I'd love to know your opinion, how you felt leaving the theater. All that's important to me, so let me know in the comment section. And finally, guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I have a ton of content down there, and I would invite any of you to subscribe. Check out the different videos I've done. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Well, guys, we got to the end of the Flash review, which means we are at the end of the DCEU. And let me ask you this here, guys. If you want to see me talk about what's going on with DC or what's next for the DC universe, let me know in the comment section, because I'd love to make a video. I don't know if the interest is there. So if you want to see me make a full video about what's going on with DC next, let me know in the comment section. But till then, if you'd like to check out any of my other content, I've got all my 2022 reviews right there and all my 2023 reviews right there.